Welcome to the channel, Professor Wilcox, where today we do Algebra 1, Chapter 7, Section 2, Multiplying Polynomials. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Algebra 1. This is Section 7.2, Multiplying Polynomials. We're going to do a couple of things today. We're going to multiply a monomial times a polynomial. We'll learn the method for FOIL, which stands for first, outer, inner, last. And then we'll do the double distribute method for multiplying polynomials. The first thing that you need to know is that multiplying a monomial by a polynomial is the exact same thing as using the distributive property. So let's copy that down right here in the blank, please. The distributive property is the same thing as a monomial times a polynomial on the inside. For example, number 1, copy this down here. My monomial is going to be 2x. And my polynomial is x squared minus 4x. I literally am going to take the monomial that's out in the front and distribute it through. I like to draw these little arcs like this. You can do it if you want to, just to indicate that I'm going to be multiplying each individual term by the monomial that's out in the front. So in this case, 2x times x squared is like 2, because there's like a 1 out here in front of this x squared. So 2 times 1. And then x times x squared is x to the third. Remember our property for multiplying powers? I add those powers together. Remember there's an invisible 1 right here, a ghost 1, and 1 plus 2 is 3. Minus, take the 2x, now multiply it by 4x, is going to be 8x to the second, and the problem is complete and we're all set. Let's move to number 2. We'll incorporate a couple more variables this time, in this case 3mn. And I multiply that by m plus 5n like this. Again, we're just going to distribute through these three terms, or through the two terms, 1 here and 2 there. I multiply 3mn. Remember, if there's a variable and I have, if I have two variables here, I just multiply it by the one that's there. And so in this case, 3mn, really I just multiply the m times the m, and that's m squared. So I can bring this over as 3m squared times n. My second term is going to be 3m times 5n. Well, remember the coefficients get multiplied together. This 3 times 5 is going to get multiplied and make the coefficient of 15. And then the m comes over, and I have n times n, and that's going to be n squared. And there's my final answer, is going to look something like this. Okay, 2 more to go, and we'll be done with the distributive property questions. Number 3, this is going to have a negative 10c out there in the front like this. I'm going to multiply that by 2c cubed minus 5c plus 2. I have 3-term polynomial. This is a trinomial. What we had learned before as a polynomial with 3 terms would be a trinomial. And I'm just going to multiply that by all 3 things, 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to write it underneath. Do the coefficients first, and then we'll do the variables. Negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. C times c to the third is c to the fourth. That's my first term. Next, I move to the coefficients. Negative 10 times negative 5 is a positive 50. Negative 10 times negative 5 is positive 50. And c times c is c squared. And then finally, negative 10c times 2 is going to be negative 20c. Notice if you do it right in order, the final answer will already be in standard form. Do you remember what we learned last week about standard form? I start with the highest exponent 4, I then move to 2, and this has a power of 1, and so those are automatically in standard form without changing anything. And finally, let's wrap up number 4. Out in the front is 8p cubed times 2p squared minus p minus 3. And I apologize to the people on the video for the shaking. As I write on here, the camera tends to move around a little bit. So let's multiply this through. Again, start with the coefficients first. 8 times 2 is 16. And remember the properties. When multiplying powers, you add those powers. So p to the third times p to the second is p to the 5th power, because 3 times 2 is 5. And finally, 8p cubed times negative p is going to be negative 8p to the fourth, because p to the third times 1 is 3 plus 1, which is 4. And my last term, 8p to the third times negative 3, well, 8 times negative 3 is negative 24, and the p cubed comes over. Final answer, 16p to the fifth minus 8p to the fourth minus 24p to the third. Okay? Now, a very important concept that we're going to talk about here for multiplying is called FOIL. It is an easy way to understand how to multiply two binomials. Please fill in these blanks. First, outer, inner, and last. I'm sure that you may have mentioned something like this at the middle school when trying to figure out what these problems are going to be. Okay? So let's use FOIL to multiply these two binomials. We'll start in box 1. We'll start easy. This is going to be x plus 3 times x plus 5. A lot of people like to call FOIL as what is called the double distribute property. And the double distribute property means I'm going to distribute twice. I like to think of it as first, outer, inner, last because it's easier. In this case for first, I note that the x is written first and the x is written first. So those are what I'm going to multiply first. Okay? I'm just going to show this to you how the process is going, and then we'll figure out what the answer is going to be. Outer, if you think about it, are the two numbers that are on the outside of the binomials. And so in this case, the x is listed on the outside, and the 5 is listed on the outside, and so those ones will go second. Okay? And now when I have inner, I point to the inside. What are the two things that are on the inside of the binomials? Well, this 3 is on the inside, and the x is on the inside. And finally, I want to multiply the two things that are written last. In the binomials, 3 is last and 5 is last, so those get multiplied last. So let's multiply them and we'll see what happens here. First times first is x times x, which is x squared. Almost always, not always, but oftentimes your first terms will have a squared in them. Outer is going to be x times 5, and so that's going to be written 5x. Inside is going to be 3 times x, so we're going to write that as 3x. And finally, last times last is 3 times 5, which I wrote here on the top, which is going to be 15. Okay? I'm going to run this one into the box underneath because I have to combine like terms and simplify those things together. And I want you to notice that 99% of the time, these two middle terms will have to be combined together. We're not done yet. I'm going to write this final answer as x squared plus 8x plus 15, and that's how my final answer has to be written. Okay? This is a very important concept, so I want to practice that 5 more times. In the next box, would you write, please, x minus 8 and x plus 2? Remember the pattern. First, outer, inner, last. Okay? So first times first is going to be written x squared. The numbers that are on the outside, these are the numbers on the outside, are x and 2. You can write that as 2x. The numbers that are on the inside are negative 8 and x. We're going to write that as negative 8x. And last times last is negative 8 times negative 2, which is negative 16. The more you practice this, the more you do these, the easier you'll remember the pattern. It's just a pattern that you're going to repeat over and over and over again. And notice the two terms that are in the middle will have to be combined together. So x squared is going to drop down. Okay, in the middle I have 2x minus 8x. Those are like terms, and that's going to be negative 6x. And then the negative 16 drops down like this, and so my final answer is going to be like this. Very, very often your answer will be a trinomial. Because think, first, outer, inner, last is 4 things, right? And when I have those 4 things, the two that are in the middle will combine together, and those two things become 1, and so I'm left with a trinomial. Your answer with FOIL will often be a trinomial. All right, number 3. Let's move over here. Give me 2a minus 3 times a minus 4. Okay? Little bit different this time because my a that's in the front has a 2 out in the front of it. and a number that has a 2 out in the front of it is a coefficient, and that changes things a little bit, but it's the same thing. Okay? First times first, and when I think of my first, I'm going to do the 2a times a. Well, just think, what is 2a times a? What's the best way to write it? 2a squared is the best way to write it. Okay? Outer is 2a times negative 4, which is negative 8a. Inner is negative 3 times a, which is negative 3a. And last times last is negative 3 times negative 4, which is a positive 12. Remember, first, outer, inner, last. Some teachers say first, outside, inside, last. Maybe you heard that in 8th grade. Maybe your Algebra 2 teacher says it that way. It's the same thing. First, outside, inside, last. First, outer, inner, last. Notice the two terms that are in the middle have to be combined together. So my final answer is going to be 2a squared. The two terms that are in the middle are negative 11a. And last times last is a plus 12. And you put a box around it. Put a box around it to tell me that it's already complete. And my terms are combined together. Okay? Let's move to the second row. We have 3 to go. In this box, I'm going to put p squared plus 8 and p squared plus 3. Okay? Same exact process, except this time we have p squareds. Not a big deal. First times first is what is listed first. The p squared and the p squared is listed first. And what is p squared times p squared? Well, we know 2 plus 2 is 4, and so that's going to be p to the 4th power. Outer is going to be the terms that are on the outside. P squared times 3 is going to be 3p squared. Okay. Inside is going to be 8 times p squared, which is 8 times p squared, or 8p squared. And last times last is 8 times 3, which is 24. I ran out of room in the box, so let's just try to squeeze this in here in the bottom. I'm going to bring down the p to the 4th. That's my first term. 3p squared plus 8p squared. Those are just like terms. It's going to be like 11p squared. And last times last is plus 24. The constant just drops down all by itself. Final answer, p to the 4th plus 11p squared plus 24. Okay? 2 boxes to go. Write this down. 3c plus 5 times 2c minus 1. Same process. We just have a coefficient in front of each variable. Not a big deal. It's the same thing. Let's multiply. First times first is going to be 3c times 2c, which is going to be written as 6c squared. Okay? Outer are the numbers on the outside, which is 3c times negative 1. That's negative 3c. Remember, when you do first, outer, inner, last, you are multiplying those terms. You are multiplying those terms. So inside, these are the ones on the inside, 5 times 2, or 5 times 2c, is 10c. I'm just multiplying those terms. And finally, last times last is 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5. You will earn 2 points for doing that line right there on all of these problems. But the problem is worth 3 points. And to get your third and final point, you got to take the 2 middle terms and combine them together. The 2 middle terms will almost always be like terms. Final answer, 6c squared. Negative 3 plus 10 is 7c. And the minus 5 comes down like this. And that would be your final answer. Okay? All right, last problem from this learning target of using FOIL. Write this down, please. X squared plus 5 times 3x minus 2. This is one of the very unique problems where the first terms do not match in their power. Let's just see what happens. First times first is x times 3x because those are the terms that are listed first. I'm sorry, x squared times 3x, right? So x squared times 3x is going to be 3x cubed. Remember, 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay? Outer is going to be x squared times negative 2, which I'm going to write as negative 2x squared. Okay. Inside are the two terms that are in the middle or on the inside. 5 times 3x is going to be 15x. And last times last is 5 times negative 2. Those are my constants, and those are negative 10. Now, this problem is special. Do you see that the two terms in the middle are not like? Notice, my term that's here is a squared. This one is just an x. Can I combine those together? Absolutely not. And so that's my final answer, and I'm done with it. One of the very few times where you don't have to combine in that last step. Okay? Now, in the final two questions, we are going to do something called double distribute. Please write this down on your note sheet and follow along with me. X squared plus 5x plus 2 times x plus 3. This is going to be written as a trinomial times a binomial. And I want to show you the process in order to figure out how to get these done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first start with the binomial, and I'm going to start with x. I'm going to multiply it by 1, 2, 3 things in a row. The arcs is just some sort of a way to keep you mentally organized so that you can figure out what it is that you have to multiply together. Okay? So let's start with the x. X times x squared is x to the third. X times 5x is 5x squared. And x times 2 is 2x. Okay? Now I'm going to move to the 3 and do the same thing. I'll do this one on the top like this. 1, 2, 3 terms. I'm going to show you what's called the column method. If you write each term in nice little columns like this as you go across, all of your like terms will line up. Now notice, if I take my 3 and I multiply it by x squared, that's 3x squared. Put the 3x squared right underneath the x squared column, underneath your other x squared term, to line up your like terms. You don't have to search for them later. It's a little bit easier. Next is 3 times the middle term, which is 5x. 3 times 5x is 15x. And notice that lines up right underneath my x term. And finally, last times last is 3 times 2. My last times last is 6. We're going to draw a big line like this, and we're going to add up all the individual terms, which are going to be my like terms. So, notice, this x cubed drops down here. That's going to be x cubed. My second term is going to be 5x squared plus 3x squared, which is 8x squared. And then I line up these terms here. These are like terms, so 2 plus 15 is 17x. And my constant plus 6 is going to drop down here like that, and we are all done. Okay? Let's try this one more time for the last problem. This is going to be 2n squared plus n minus 5. And my binomial is going to be n minus 4. Copy that down in the box, and then we'll multiply these together using the double distribute method. Okay? I want to show you something. What some people like to do, and you can do this if you want, is take the binomial and put it first. We didn't do it in the last problem, but some people like to put the binomial first because it's easier for them. And here's the double distribute method. Start with the first term in the binomial, in this case n. And we're going to distribute that 1, 2, 3 times, and we're going to write all the terms underneath. Okay? So n times 2n squared is going to be 2n cubed. Okay? Next, I have n times my middle term. Well, what's n times n? Well, that's just n squared. I'm going to drop that down here. And finally, n times negative 5 is going to be negative 5n. So there's my first row. My second row, I'm now going to distribute the negative 4. 1, 2, 3 times. Okay? And I'm going to write all the terms from that second distributive underneath in the second column. Line up your nice and neat like terms in columns, and so that you can drop everything down and add them together real nice and neat. So negative 4 gets distributed. Negative 4 times 2n squared is negative 8n squared. And I lined it up right underneath my n squared term. Okay? Negative 4 times n here in the middle is going to be negative 4n. And finally, last times last is negative 4 times negative 5, which is going to be a positive 20. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to add up all my like terms underneath. Okay? Take the 2n cubed, drop it down, that's right here, 2n cubed. I'm going to take this column right here, n squared minus 8n squared is a negative 7n squared. Negative 5 and negative 4 is going to be a negative 9n. And that plus 20 drops down underneath there. Put a box around it. That's going to be your final answer. Well, I hope this teaching has been helpful for you. And if you have any questions, you can find me on Remind. You can email me at jwilcox@davisonschools.org, or you can find me in room 312. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.